And yes, technically you could encounter a medical emergency, but like most of what you're doing is just precipitating Medicare fraud. I mean, after you've been like just like hauling around old people for 4 months and you're just like about to like go to a parking lot, I was not ready.
Yeah. Whatever you do, stay alive. Right? Like don't kill yourself for the kids. Don't kill yourself for the man. Don't kill yourself. Stay alive. One, because your kids are resilient, and two, the more life you live, the less impact certain decisions might actually have on your life. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of TDY, Faith, Family, and Finance. For those that don't know me, my name is Winston, but you could call me Winnie. I am I say I'm excited all the time, so I'm not even going to say that. This episode, I think is going to be really cool because I got one of my boys with me. We're not just co-workers, but I do think that we're friends, and I think this episode is going to be dope. How do I put this? When I met this man about 8-9 months ago, I'm like, okay, another coworker, he fits the mold, right? And then I spoke to him, and then we connected, and like actually spoke. Like the first thing we realized is we're not weird. Like we're not like indoctrinated into our jobs and the lingo that comes with it. And if you know, if you're in any sort of like corporate tech sale, like any corporate environment, you kind of know what I'm talking about. After having a couple conversations, I'm like, oh, okay, he loves Jesus, and okay, he's normal, and okay, we share a lot of values together and all that. But like, I can't tell you how, like if you saw us together, you probably wouldn't be like, oh, they're friends. Like you probably, think we weren't. But like when I tell you that this is my dog, it really is. And I'm excited for y'all to meet him. So I'm gonna turn it over. Let you introduce yourself, Mr. James. Mr. James, go ahead. Say what's up.
How's it going, everybody out there? My name is James Berman. As Winnie mentioned, I'm one of his colleagues. But yeah, I would agree. I think we are friends.
You said you were my dog, not a colleague. So.
Well, I mean, you said dog, but you said more than a colleague. You were my dog.
There you go. Yeah.
Right? Or I was your dog.
Yeah.
Woof woof.
Woof woof, says James. No. So, yeah, like I said, like we met, we've had like a bunch of conversations in the office that I was like, bro.
Hopefully weren't bugged.
Well, I mean, we're still employed.
We're still good, yeah.
So I don't think they were bugged.
Yeah.
But I was like, yo, we got to get on the show together and like just talk about life because, man, like your perspective on a lot of things, I will say is very, very, very interesting. It gets me to think about a lot of stuff. And, I just appreciate that perspective, man. So I'm excited about this. Definitely excited about this.
Same to you.
Yeah, man. So go ahead and just give some context to like who you are and kind of like your journey so far and how you ended up where you ended up.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a husband. I'm a father. And I'm a Catholic. And I'm an American. And I'm also a Finnish person. I was born in Finland, so my mom is Finnish, and my father is American. I think we moved to the States after I was like a year old, so not a lot of time in Finland. My parents split up when I was young. We moved back to Finland for a short stint, and then I kind of grew up on the West Coast in Southern California with pretty much just my mom and my brother. So it was a good time, tough times, but wasn't like, nothing to like cry about. Wasn't too bad. Lived in a first world country. First world poor is not really the same as like anywhere else
that
poor.
Part, That part.
So, it was a good time. In terms of my faith, I was raised Catholic, right? So I was baptized immediately. I think like most people, I didn't really take my faith all that seriously. Like my mom took me to church. I went to like religious education for like Catholic school. I didn't go to Catholic school, but I went to like religious education on Sundays and all of that. And I don't know, I thought about it sometimes, right? But like, I never thought about it all that deeply. And it's like weird when you get a child's education in religious studies, right? You never go past that phase, right? You only ever think of religion as a child.
That part.
So when I got to kind of like high school, right? And you get into that rebellious phase and you start like questioning everything. The thing that I was questioning was like my child's understanding of religion, because I'd never taken it to like, an actual like theological like exploration of it. I had only really understood like, oh, these are the Bible stories, take them for what they are. These are, the New Testament stories, take them for what they are. These were the characters in this, story. Right. So I think I definitely fell away from that. I think I would have called myself an atheist probably from the age of like 16 up until like 28.
Would you have called yourself an atheist at the time, or is it just looking back that you would have called yourself?
I would have called myself an atheist at the time. Probably mostly from like the age of like 15 to 18. And that's because I was like really into like Richard Dawkins and like sort of that like new atheist movement.
And how did you jump from, sorry, I know I should let you just finish, but like I'm very interested. How did you jump from like Bible believing, like, Catholic, directly to atheist? Usually people go like agnostic first and then atheist. Like what made...
I mean, like I would say probably around like 10, 11, I just stopped caring about it as much. Like it was just something that I did. So it wasn't really... I would say like when in my adolescence, like I thought about it a lot. I had like a lot of questions in religious education and all of that, like not like deep questions. I had like a child's questions about this kind of stuff. But I just like, I just took it for granted, right? I never questioned my own faith because like, why would you? You don't really do that when you're 8. Once I got to the point where I started, getting to a place where I would question the faith, what I was questioning was, an incomplete understanding of like my faith. I had, like I mentioned, like I had a child's understanding of that faith, and that kind of moved into more of like, okay, well, I don't really believe this, but I mean, maybe like this part is true. I do remember distinctly, like when I was 11, 12, questioning my faith a lot, but I remember kind of like telling myself, well, how can all of these people be wrong? Right? Like all of these adults,
Interesting.
Right? Like all of these adults that are here, right? How could I question that like every single one of them is like absolutely wrong about that? And that actually like that took me for a few years where I was like, all right. But then when I got to like be 14, I started to realize like, wait, a lot of people are dumb.
Yep.
I was like, there's a lot of really dumb people. And a lot of them are adults too. Right. Cause like when you get into high school, like you meet a teacher or something and you're getting by in their class and they say something, you're like, that's not even true. Like that's, how do you not know that? And then you just start, going from there. But yeah, I mean, when I was like 15, like I was I prided myself on being like very contrarian. I prided myself on...
What does that mean, contrarian?
So like I would take the opposite position of, whatever the mainstream kind of was. I was vegan in high school for a little while.
This guy, okay.
I drive a Ram 1500, by the way, so I am not...
You're not a vegan.
Yeah, I don't... Crunchy is not the aesthetic that I think I give off. But I read a book when I was in high school. It was called Animal Rights. And I think it was Peter Singer. And like this dude was extreme. He was like, he was talking about like, shutting down the electrical grid to like save pigs or something. So he was real. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm not going to do that, but like, I could skip eating meat and like animal products for a while. Yeah, it lasted 2 years.
Wow.
And but during high school, I wasn't the best student. I pretty much only went so that I could be eligible to play water polo and swim. Just kind of normal kid stuff. I think not having a dad around, you kind of flounder around a little bit when you reach to your maturity or when you're starting to reach maturity. After high school, went to college, community college. I went there specifically just to play water polo and do swim. They were like ranked very highly in the country for like a community college level. Pretty much majored in drinking and going out. That was other than water polo. That was like the main thing that I accomplished during that time, other than getting certified as an EMT.
Slow down. Okay, wait. So how did you even get certified as an EMT while in college? Isn't that like a whole career field that you have to?
No, being an EMT is like a stepping stone, and it takes it takes like a year. You can do it faster if you go to like, I mean, they have some like accelerated programs,
Oh my goodness.
you know, where it's like a couple weekends and you can become an EMT. It's like the lowest rung of the ladder for most like medical jobs where you're actually like, you know, you're not like a janitor in a hospital. You're like actually treating patients to some degree. It is terrible because like every job that you want to do in the medical industry. So like in California, being a firefighter is like a very highly sought after job. It's kind of like a chill job that you can do, where, you know, you get to get paid quite a bit. Like I think like later on in your career, you can make in like high six figures. Not like high, like close to seven figures, but like, you know, you can make like 400,000 a year, and you can do that like pretty much without a college degree. So it is it's a great job. But the path to doing that, because it's so highly competitive, the path to doing that is like going either EMT. If you want to be a doctor, right? When you're applying for medical school, a lot of the times they want clinical hours. One of the easiest ways to get clinical hours is to be an EMT. So you can do that, and then like various other fields within like the medical industry. Everybody wants to, you know, get those clinical hours. So the pay that you get is like $6 an hour. At least when I was doing it back in 2012. So yeah, 2012 they were paying me $6 an hour to do
ride
that.
around and save people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot. So if you're working 911, which like the last like year of me working as an EMT, I was doing 911. Then you're, you know, hopefully saving lives, I guess. Like, you know, it's hard to say like how many times you're certainly not making it worse.
Okay.
Most of the time. But like, I mean, depending on the severity of the case, you know, sometimes there's just not a lot you can do.
So I'm thinking in my mind right now, a 19, 20-year-old James Berman that went to a party last night, got drunk. Well, won his water polo game, went to a party that same night, got drunk, party, did his thing, and then woke up the next morning to go ride around in an ambulance and hopefully bring some people that need saving to the hospital.
Not quite. So after a year and a half in community college, once I got the EMT cert, I didn't have like any credits that I could use to really like transfer to any kind of other school. I also dislocated my knee, not doing sports. You know, I was doing some nighttime basketball.
Okay.
You know, as they do. But nonetheless, this knee blew out, so I wasn't going to swim that year. And I was pretty much just like, all right, well, there's nothing really, there's no reason to continue going to school at this point. So I started working at that time. So probably like the going to a party the night before part, definitely true. Not the water polo or the school part for that. And then like, for the first year, I did like non-emergency transport. That's usually how it works when you kind of join a private company. And yes, technically you could encounter a medical emergency, but like most of what you're doing is just precipitating Medicare fraud. You're essentially just, like, these companies have contracts with skilled nursing facilities and you know, like these old folks homes basically, where like they're sick enough that like they need some kind of like medical assistance, and they have like, you know, maybe they have like diabetes and they're on like dialysis or something, they have kidney problems. But they're like stable. A lot of the times they can walk, like they're, you know, ambulatory in EMT parlance. But like they just contract an ambulance to take them, even though they don't actually need it. They could take a van, they could take an Uber, like to their hospital appointment and all of that. But yeah, your job is to like sit there and like, you know, get them to sign the paperwork so that your company can bill for this like fraudulent Medicare activity. It's pretty boring. I think during that time, the wildest thing I saw was like I was on the way from dropping off a patient, and we were just like going to some area to like sit around and wait for the next like terrible call that we had to do. And there was like a lot of traffic on this main street in Torrance, California. And like as I was passing by, some cop just like ran out in front of our ambulance and was just like, "You have to stop, you have to stop." And I was like, "What? What do you mean?" And he was like, there's been a stabbing here. Like this person's like bad. You have to stop. Like fire department is on the way.
Oh, shit.
And like we're legally required to stop if like we see someone that's like injured and there's nobody else on the scene for that. But I was just like, I mean, it was like I'd been doing it for like 4 months at this point.
I was gonna say, are you even trained for that?
You are. I mean, you're trained in like a medical, in like emergency, but like, I mean, after you've been like just like hauling around old people for 4 months and you're just like about to like go to a parking lot, I was not ready.
Yeah.
I was basically like, okay, it's the show.
Yep.
This is it. My partner, she was like, she had just been done like being a trainee. So she was like, you know, she was gung ho. She was like very enthusiastic, but she was like not ready for this. In any way. So like I had to pretend like I was like, oh, this is going to be fine. No worries. I took out the trauma bag, which is like something that we have to pack every time. And like I unclipped like the like zip ties that are on it because it had never been used for that. So like I went out and it was an absolute, can you swear on this podcast? It was a crap show.
Okay.
It was a crap show out there. It was wild. There was like 2 people that had been stabbed. There was the like perpetrator who like was getting the crap kicked out of him by who apparently was like the victim's father. I don't know how the victim's father was there, but like he was just like beating this dude up that had like stabbed his kid, like I think like 6 times or something. But like his kid also had a knife, so like he was stabbed. Like the other guy was stabbed like twice or something like that. I pulled up there. He had like just multiple stab wounds. I was like, oh crap. Like, all right, what were you supposed to do again? All right, I guess I cut off the clothes and then, you know, you count the stab wounds because I think that's probably important for them. I was like trying to think like, oh God damn it, what bandage is it that you're supposed to use for this? Because there's like a special one where it has to like, you have to like have a little flap on it. So, and like they have like all of these different bandages. So I had to think back to that on my feet. But yeah, then after that, I just kind of like went to a parking lot, threw up.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah, and then you know, went back into like the car, and I was like, that was pretty crazy. And then like another 4 months went by where nothing happened, and then I finally got to a spot opened up with like their 911 contract, which was with like the Huntington Beach Fire Department.
Okay, so you did the fire department after the EMT thing.
Yeah, so it's the same company. So I was still working as an EMT, but so these ambulance companies, they have contracts with both like these skilled nursing facilities and like these just like patient transports, and then usually they have a supplemental contract with the fire department.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because I'm watching it as you're saying it, right? So like the timeline that I have in my mind right now is like, you know, early 20s, James, you're doing the EMT thing. But I'm trying to bridge the person that you just told me and the person that I see today. Okay. And you're gonna have to connect that for me, please. Right. What was it?
I mean, the person that you see today definitely became that person moving to Sweden. So right around this, like, you know, later on, I'd been working the fire department thing. I was doing 24-hour shifts. Making even less, making $5 an hour. Cause like now I guess you work more hours, so you get overtime. So they can like cut your pay, below minimum wage, at the time. Just a fun fact. If anybody out there is thinking about being an EMT,
it's insane. I did not know that.
It sucks. It's a cool job, but it sucks. At that time I was just like, you know, I was considering like, all right, do I want to go to school? Like maybe I can stay in the medical field, be like a physician's assistant or something like that. I liked working with my hands and I liked like working with patients. I thought that was interesting, but my brother had just moved to Sweden at the time.
Older brother.
My older brother, my only brother, but older brother. So he had moved to Sweden at the time. Remember I said I was born in Finland, so we both kept that citizenship. I think when I was like 16, they changed this rule where you didn't have to do mandatory military service.
Oh, nice.
If you wanted to like keep your citizenship in Finland. I think it's just because they were like desperate to have people
like that live there or claim them.
Yeah, pretty much. Country. Dude, when I went to the passport office, like when I was 18, to like reclaim my like Finnish citizenship, they were stoked. They
Like,
they
really?
were so happy. Yeah, dude, I came in there, they were like, "Oh, like you want to keep it?" And I was like, "Yeah, like I would, I can travel to like Europe freely. Yeah, I'll keep it." They were like, "Oh my God, that's so great." I was like, "All right, guys, settle down, okay?"
Like, you make me rethink
Yeah,
this decision.
I don't know, you're a little too desperate for this. But yeah, so yeah, it was easy to move to Sweden, and my plan at the time was I was gonna fly there in like the beginning of the summer. I was gonna get a job as like a bartender or like bar back or something like that. I was gonna save some money, and then I was gonna be a degenerate and just like backpack across Europe, and come what may. I think I was like thinking like maybe I'll like end up in some ashram in India or something like that. Grow dreadlocks along the way.
Wait, were you still an atheist at this time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was, I was still, well, so at this time, being an EMT did let me see a different side of, society. I would say like politically at the time, I was probably like, I would say libertarian, right? I was like, I did believe in some, I voted for Obama, like my first election, which was 2012. So I voted for him then. And yeah, like from a policy perspective, I was like, okay, like I think we need like some social programs, but like not too much. I believe in, a little bit of like, independent freedom and all of that kind of stuff. But socially, I was like, yeah, do whatever you want, just don't bother me about it. For that, when I was an EMT, you deal a ton with just like homeless drug addicts all the time that are like not sick in any way. They just want like a bed or something like that, which I kind of get it, but like they don't want like a homeless bed because like there you have to, not do drugs or something. They want like a hospital bed because they want to do that. And just, you deal with like just so many scummy people all the time. And you see like just so how much like people abuse different like programs, different like systems. Like I said, like these ambulance companies, they're just Medicare scams. Like I would say 80% of their revenue is just scamming Medicare all the time.
Wow.
And there are like hundreds of these in just California. Like there are thousands of these companies that just exist to do that. So I was getting a little bit more, like I would say, pretty hardcore fiscally conservative at that time, but still pretty socially liberal. Moving to Sweden, as people know, like Sweden, very, I would say, socially liberal kind of country. They would be. It's actually changed a lot here in America since I left, but when I left, America would have been very different. Even growing up in Southern California, going to Sweden and seeing like their version of like social liberalism was shocking at the time. I would say we're now closer to parity here in 2024. But yeah, being there, I got to see kind of like what socialized healthcare looked like. Not a fan. It wasn't good.
Really?
Oh, dude.
So I'm of the impression that like socialized healthcare would be something that is largely beneficial for the population. Why do you?
There's some people in the population. Okay. So I would say the way that I understand it is that like healthcare for any nation, it's like a triangle, right? And you only get to pick two, right? So it can either be very good and affordable, or like you can only pick two of them. I forget what the triangle is, but you can basically pick like two of them, and like affordability and quality are not two that you can pick at the same time.
Interesting.
Right. So it can be like affordable and very good, but then it's not widely available. Right. So if you subsidize it, then like not everybody can be on that. Otherwise it's unaffordable. Or it can be very good and widely available, but then like it's not affordable for anyone. Right. Like it's just, look at like even in America, the number one like item line that we have in our budget that like is completely unfunded is like Medicare, right? Followed by Social Security. But like, all of the Medicare and like the one for old people, but also the ones that we have for, federally assisted kind of people, like the money is just not there for it. If you look in Europe, if you look in like the UK, all of these countries, Germany, France, all of their biggest expenses are just like their healthcare system. And they're constantly looking for ways to cut from the healthcare system. So what you actually get in practice, because they have to keep, affordability down, is that like you go into the doctor's office and you say, oh, I have this symptom, I have this symptom, I have this symptom. Most of the time, at least in my experience, the answer is kind of just like, you're fine.
Dang, I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah. Man, I had, so I've gotten like strep throat a bunch of times. So I got strep throat when I was in Sweden, and I was like, I know this is strep throat. I've had strep throat a bunch of times. Like I have like the intolerable pain in my throat. Like I have like the fever and all of that. I can see like the polyps on my throat. I know this is strep throat. I just need to go to like their equivalent of an urgent care, get a quick test, and they'll do a sample and they'll confirm that it's strep throat, and then they give me antibiotics. I went in there. She was like, well, how long have you been, having a sore throat for? I've been like, it's been 3 days, right? Because I'm not an idiot. I know that if it had been 1 hour since I got a sore throat, I wouldn't have been coming here for this. And then there was like this runaround, and at the end of it, she was just like, well, let's just see if this goes over. And it's like, well, strep throat doesn't just like go away. Like symptoms can subside, but if you don't treat strep throat, like it's very, very bad for you. You can, many, many years later, you can actually like die from that. So it's like, okay, I will come back tomorrow if I still have symptoms, but like, I need you to test me for strep throat. Next day I come back and I'm just like, I started actually developing like a rash, which you can get like if you've had like strep for like a while. So I started getting a rash from it, and I went in and I was like, lady, please, like just, it's a swab, like just take the test, like do that. She did, like, she does the swab. She's like, oh, well, you do have strep throat, and then after all of this, I get antibiotics. I don't think it was just unlucky for me, because I've had like multiple experiences with Swedish healthcare where it was just like, awful. Just, because I mean, they're motivated by their number one motivation is to keep costs down, because it's like very, very expensive. I mean, we don't have like the best system in the United States for sure. We have, in a lot of ways, we have like the worst of both systems, because we have a hugely supremely regulated like healthcare system. But then we also have, like a healthcare system where we have insurance that's tied to a job, and we insure against stuff that we're, going to do anyway, like going to a doctor's appointment. Just like, you don't insure your car so that you get into an accident. You don't like plan to get into an accident every year and then, buy insurance for that. So why would you buy insurance to like go get to a doctor's checkup every year?
I've never thought about it that way.
No.
Okay.
Well, that's what insurance is for. You insure against something that you don't think is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But our insurance system for healthcare, for some reason, we insure against like a bunch of stuff that like we know is for sure going to happen, right? Like your annual checkup, for sure that is going to happen.
Yeah. I'm trying to defend it, and I don't even know why I'm trying to defend it, but it's almost like a savings. It's like a savings system rather than an insurance system. Yeah,
because I would say I would say most places, like if you just paid out of pocket for for an annual checkup, right? Like an annual checkup takes like 20 minutes of a doctor's time, right? They'll probably bill you like $100, $150, right? Like I'm not a mathematician, but like if you're even paying $50 a month in copay, like you're saving.
Yeah.
In that scenario, right? And maybe you could have a new insurance plan where you pay $25 a month and it only insures you for emergencies, right? Which is like kind of how insurance is supposed to work.
Okay.
We're on a tangent.
Yeah. Okay. So you go to Sweden, you stay with your brother.
Yeah.
You're thinking about backpacking and being a degenerate.
Yeah.
And you decide not to do it because
he sits me down. He says, I've gone through this like program here. He was going to school there for software development, .NET, C#. He said, like, I've gone through this program. You're in your mid-20s, time to stop messing around and, just try this out and see if you actually like it, And I saw he was wearing like, a suit to work and stuff. And I'd been in an ambulance for so long. I was like, damn, you get to like, your company pays for lunches. That's pretty sweet. I was like making $5 an hour. So I was like, this is pretty awesome. So I ended up getting into this program. Long story. It was hard to get in, but I got in and I started working as a SharePoint developer. So.
Okay. So just a quick question on that, because I find this really interesting. So one, the representation of your brother, like doing something pretty interesting, something cool, is what sparked that interest in you, right? And that's that just goes to show that showing somebody that you might be mentoring or showing somebody that you might just be one step ahead. Because realistically, like, how old is he? How much older is he than you?
Year and a half.
Okay, so he's maybe like, if you're your mid 20s, he's, you know, still probably early career, you know,
Yeah.
like maybe mid career, so not that far ahead of you.
No,
technically.
he was like maybe like a year into his career.
Right.
at
But
that
but
point.
the fact that he was a step ahead allowed him
for
to
sure.
show you, hey, don't step here, maybe step here.
Yeah, yeah.
And like that's really important for a lot of people. Like you don't your mentor, like you don't need to be 10 miles ahead to be a guru.
Oh, for sure.
Right? You just need to be able to show somebody the very next step to take.
Oh, for sure.
Right? So like always, it's important to always remember to mentor down, because you don't necessarily need to be light years ahead to make a difference in somebody's life.
100%. Yeah, and I mean, I think, you know, I've always like looked up to my brother. I mean, there's like that dynamic there of like, you know, and especially like I didn't have a dad, so like he was, you know, the male influence figure in my life. So I mean, when he spoke, I listened. But I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have somebody like that in their life. And you know, like even if it's a friend, you know, if you're in a place in your life where you're not stoked about, you know, where you are, you're not stoked about like the work that you do, you're not, you know, happy in general. I mean, look to a friend who, you know, has something that you have and just be like, yo,
How'd you get it?
Yeah, what'd you do?
Like,
you know,
literally.
like what was step one? Like, how did you do that? And you know, you don't need to ask them for a handout, but like it's very easy for someone to just be like, oh, I just kind of did this.
So another thing that was interesting about what you said was he pointed you in the direction, but then you had to actually travel down that road.
Yeah.
Like you got the cert yourself. So I'm like, I feel like you skipped over something, because the dude that is riding around as an EMT, skipping class, going to school just to play water polo. I don't know if you were skipping class. I kind of just imposed that on you. But like that guy decides that wants to be a degenerate for a summer.
I was already a degenerate.
Okay,
I was just going to be a degenerate in Europe.
Okay, a bigger degenerate in
Maybe
Europe.
not bigger. I mean, I was a pretty big degenerate.
Okay,
So
just a degenerate in a different continent.
Yeah.
But like for some reason you just decide to turn that around in an instant and sign up for this tech cert.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, I was
how
still
did that
going.
happen?
So like, I was going to school at that point. So like, now I was back to being a student. So I mean, I was going out a lot during that period. I was actually working as a bartender while I was going to school as well. So I was working at this pretty dirty bar that was like known for having like foreign bartenders, or like usually like American English speaking bartenders. So yeah, I mean, I was still going out a lot during that time, but I was also working really hard because I had no background in software development.
How did you shift your mindset from I want to be a degenerate to I need to work really hard?
I mean, I was never like not a hard worker, right? So like I was always playing water polo. Like when I was in middle school to like elementary school, I was a really good student. I really enjoyed doing that, but I also like I really enjoyed playing sports. And like I mean, when I was playing water polo in high school, for example, like I played for 2 different club teams, so like 2 teams outside of school for that. So like usually I would be at a practice every morning at like 6. If it wasn't for like school, it would just be for like one of these club teams that I would be doing during the off season. And then I would basically like, I would go to class and then I would be in the pool until like 7 p.m. Every night, except, you know, tournaments and games on the weekends. So I was like always working hard, but like school, I was basically choosing between school, partying, and water polo. And I chose partying.
Yes.
During that period. And during this period, I was just kind of like, all right, well, I only have to choose between like school and partying for that. And like I was, you know, I had matured a little bit at this point as well. Like I wasn't, you know, drinking every night of the week. This now is in more like, okay, you know, keep it chill. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You know, those are the days that you should, you know, because I mean, who would only a real degenerate would drink Monday,
Tuesday, and Wednesday.
So I was slowly maturing during this stage in my life. But yeah, I mean, at a certain point, I was seeing my brother kind of like progress in that career. And I was like, as I was like, because the program was about 2.5 years in total. So yeah, during that time, I saw him like progress a little bit. I was making some like industry connections and all of that. And I just kind of saw like, well, dang, like this could be an actual career. Like this is a viable career path. I mean, the bar that I had set for myself, kind of like growing up was basically like, I want to not live paycheck to paycheck. I would want to live I would want to, if I had a $10,000 expense, like that wouldn't ruin me. Or even a $5,000 expense or a $1,000 expense wouldn't just like ruin me. And I wanted to be able to like own a modest house. Like, so those were my goals. And I was like, dude, I could totally do this. This is a path to that. So then I started taking it like very seriously. I graduated from the program early, cause I just kept doing like this internship, which turned into a job. And yeah, like, I mean, as I got like busier and as I started seeing like, okay, well, there's like a real financial motivation, to like put all of my efforts into this, then, I mean, just naturally, I just kind of matured and I stopped.
What I love about that is it emphasizes the concept of like building momentum. Because at first, when you start a new task, you usually don't see the fruits of that. Like when you plant something, right, it grows down before it grows up.
Oh, for sure.
Right. And I love the fact that you stuck with it long enough where you had a vision for it. But once you started seeing what that thing can yield, you were like, all right, let's actually put some weight behind this. And you worked off of that momentum. That's a really, really profound thought for people to chew on.
For sure. And I think we've talked about this before, right? Like we're both guys that we really like what we do. Like I love working in tech. I think it's one of the most fascinating fields to be in, especially like our sliver of tech. I mean, it is the most cutting edge, the most, interesting thing to be doing, in my opinion. I mean, sure, there are some like, marine biologists exploring caves out there, but like it is still,
it's us.
Exactly. It's a fascinating field to be in. And like all aspects of technology are really fun, rewarding careers because you're solving problems and all of that. But I kind of felt like, it could have been anything for me. If like somebody had offered me a job as like a financial analyst on Wall Street or something, and they'd been like, hey, do this for a year and like you'll be making $500,000 a year or like $1 million in a good year. I would have been like, yeah, sign me up for that. Like, absolutely, like I will 100% do that. So it was really just like, I just saw this thing, my brother pointed this thing out to me and was like, this is a path to make, good money. And I was like, okay, I can do that. It checks a lot of boxes. And I think that's important, for anybody in your audience out there, that sort of feels the way, right? Like if you are the kind of person where you are absolutely passionate about something, you've been playing operations since you were 3 and like, you're just like, I'm going to be a surgeon. That's it. All right, man. You know what you want to do.
I envy those people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like if you know that like, you would be soul crushed if you were anything other than a performer or something like that. I'd encourage you to think about it. Think about it more than once. Oh man, I'm gonna go on a tangent here, but I was watching this commercial the other day. It was like some pharmaceutical commercial. I think it was like for some like eczema cream, and like there was like this woman singing, like this song on there, and it was like nothing is everything, and like it was like this long jingle or whatever. And like, I was just sitting there and I don't know why I thought about this, but I was like, dang, I bet this chick was like dreaming about being she's like, I'm going to be a pop star. Like I'm going to make it. Right. And like, in a way she is, cause like, she's probably among the 1% that like actually got paid to, sing something. And she's up there, but like she's singing like for, Cialis or something. Like, that's where she's at. Like.
So I like it. So I'm thankful that you went on this tangent, because I think that a lot of people think that if you're not operating at like the top 1% of your craft and being compensated likewise, then it's a failure. Right? Like if somebody says, I want to play basketball, right, for a living, or I want to play, and like you're not in the NBA, or like you're not in the top 10% of the NBA, then you failed. Right. But like you can have a wonderful career overseas, right? You can have like even do something like doing this podcast, right? Like somebody might say, oh, you don't have 10,000 viewers or you don't have 100,000 viewers. Oh, it's a dub. But like I have a couple hundred people that tune in every month. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not a failure per se. If nobody tuned in, it wouldn't be a failure. It's doing something that you love, something that you're passionate about, something that compensates you, like something that fulfills you, right? So like
Yeah.
Ciala's
I
chick.
think like there's a difference between like a hobby and like a career, right? Or like something that pays you, right? It's a luxury to be able to do something as both, like where you're like, hey, this is a hobby for me, but like if this turns into something, I can, swap this out. I think the Cialis singer, I think like she, was putting her eggs in the basket of, see, this is going to get me canceled. Cause like, I bet like she's going to come out of the woodwork. She's going to make like all 100 of your viewers are going to be like, tagging her in this. And then like, she's going to, they're going to look up the song and then she's going to be like, I worked my whole life for this. And like, this dude came and started talking smack about this. You know what? I love the song.
It's a great song.
It's a great song. And like I said, I remember the compliment, top 1%, because she got paid to do that. She's going to get residuals, dude. Facts. She's going to for sure get residuals. And like, I mean, in the NBA, like this is the 0.01% of, basketball players ever, and it's sure. Like if you're playing overseas and you're getting money for that, you're in the top 1% of players, you know, and if you're just like really good in a rec league, you're probably in like the lower like percentile.
So there's this concept of like a comparison other, right? So it's like people only see themselves as compared to somebody else.
Sure.
So like when, like if you've ever like heard somebody complain about their role, how much they're getting paid and all that, because they're comparing themselves to their coworkers. But if you compared yourself to like for me, for example, I'm gonna say I left my last job because I was overworked and underpaid. Right, I was paid well, but like for the work that I was doing, I didn't feel compensated enough. I saw people doing less work lapping me. Right, my comparison other was 40 and 50-year-old people with 25 years in industry.
Yeah.
When if I change my comparison other from 40 or 50-year-olds to 24-year-olds, with a small with a degree from a liberal arts school,
sure,
I was probably doing a lot better, than my comparison other at the time. But in my mind, I didn't think about that. So like when people start feeling away, right, or hey, I'm not living up to this, or I'm not doing as best as I can, check your comparison other, because your comparison other is actually might boost you or lower you.
Oh, for sure. And also, like, I mean, everybody is the hero of their own story, right? Like when you go back to like middle school and you have a group project, right? And at the end of that group project, ask the team, like, who did the most work? Everybody raises their hand. Everybody's like, I did the most work. And like, even like everybody else on the kid is looking at the one kid that did nothing, was me probably. But like, you're looking at like the one kid that did nothing. You're all like, how the heck does this person, you're thinking like they can't be serious, right? You're thinking like they're lying or something like that. But that person really believes that, And then, I mean, like, so I would say if you are going to, compare yourself to anyone else, like you should be careful, because you should be sure that you're giving yourself an unbiased look at like what your level of effort was, like what your work was, putting those two things together. And I'm not saying that like, you can put two things together for the data that you have available to you, because you may not have all the data points of like what they're doing. And sometimes you can put them together and you can say, okay, well, in these areas, I've outperformed these other people. But, if you're just going to like give yourself a self check, like, okay, who's the best worker here? Who deserves to get paid the most? I'm definitely going to be like, oh, it's me, like I just.
Most times we're wrong about that.
Oh, for sure.
Most times we're wrong about that.
Yeah.
So another thing that came to mind, like while you were talking, is like you worked very hard on transitioning to, like this new space, and it could have been anything. It was whatever was going to get you the means, right, to live the life that you were interested in. And I kind of feel the same way. Like I love the work that we do. I'm passionate about it, but most of my fulfillment, 95%, comes outside of my 9 to 5.
Oh yeah.
Right. So like whether like you could pay me, if you paid me the same amount of money that I'm making right now to like go stand on the side of the street, and like turn a flag around and like direct traffic somewhere, I would do that. Let me not lie. I wouldn't do that in a heartbeat, but like I would be willing to do that as well. Right. Because once again, I know that once.
Do I get to have headphones?
Headphones. Yeah. Definitely.
I get headphones?
Definitely get to have headphones. Right. Yeah. And like a fan because it's hot outside. But like.
Outside?
Okay, so let's move this indoors. Let's move this indoors to really cement this right. analogy here.
Indoors, like receptionist or something, like front desk.
Yes. Okay. Like, I don't care. I don't care what it is necessarily that I'm doing, as long as it doesn't directly contradict or conflict my ethos. I more so just want to make sure that I'm able to contribute to the world and live the life that I would feel comfortable living and provide for my family and all that.
I would challenge you on that because I'm not sure that's true. Because I feel like I know you. I feel like I know you a little bit, right? And I feel like a lot of my, like I would agree. Like I could do a lot of things, right, for the same or more money, right, and be happy, right? I could be content. It's not like I have one specific passion for one thing, but I do get some fulfillment from the work that I do, right? Like a lot of it is monetarily, right? Like I get fulfillment for the fact that I provide for my family. That's a big component of it. But like I also do get, mental stimulation from my work. And like I feel like if I was doing something where, I was just answering the phone, saying the same thing, like a scripted message, and then connecting them on something that I could do, in my sleep or something, doing that 8 hours a day, day in, day out, they would have to pay me a lot of money to do that because I would, you would go crazy after a certain point.
Okay. You got me on that one. You got me on that one. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I would qualify this as like, I would do a lot of things that are mentally stimulating, right? And there's a range there because the more you pay me, right, there's a balancing act. The more you pay me, the worse of a job I'm willing to do. Right, like there's for sure a balance there, but there needs to be some aspect of I enjoy it.
Yeah, right? and I like our job. Like once again, it's like it's a cool field and all that, but I just feel like for how do I put this? Typically driven people, because we have multiple skills and because we can do a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. We don't necessarily know what to do, right? Because we can do so much, we don't know what we should be doing.
Yeah.
Right. And that showed up in my life because I essentially stumbled into this field. I started my MBA because I wanted to move into product management and product development and all that. Mm-hmm. And this like opportunity presented itself, and it just sent me down this rabbit hole of like, tech sales and like technology and AI and all that. And now that I'm here, I never want to leave, but I still recognize the fact that if I were to do something else, which I could do a bunch of other things, I would have no idea what to do. So like, have you met that struggle? And if so, like, how do you tackle that?
So the specific struggle would be like having to find something else to do, or what is the...
Knowing that you can do a lot, but focusing on what you're currently doing and focusing on what you should be doing.
Yeah. I think similar to you, I kind of stumbled into this, right? I stumbled into this at a point where I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I think if you are in that situation, right, I think something that is important, if I could go back and like tell myself when I was 15, like I would tell myself two things. The first one I would tell myself is that like life is a lot longer than you think it is, right? Like when you're 15, I would say that's like when you have your first like awakening, right? You're no longer just like a kid anymore. You have like some real independence, and you've taken like a substantial step in your mental development and like how you are. You finally start feeling independent, and you're also like, you see a light out there. Cause like if you're, middle class or something, you're thinking about college or something like that. You're thinking like, okay, in 3 years from now, like I'm going to live away from my parents. I'm going to be quote unquote an adult at this point. Right. And I think it's very hard it's not even really advice you can give to somebody that's 15 because they can't really comprehend it. Right. But like going from 15 to 30 at the time that you're 15, that's an entire lifetime to you.
Interesting.
At that point, right? Like that is an entire lifetime to you, right? And it's very hard to kind of like wrap your head around that in a way that like will be effective to you, because like when you're 15, a lot of the times every year feels like it goes so slowly, right? It feels like everything, like when you're in high school, you think that like, things in high school actually matter, right? But when you're 4 years outside of high school, when you're, 22 at that point, when you're still a kid, nothing that mattered in high school matters,
Yep.
You don't even think about it. Like, it doesn't matter to you at all, but like you have such a like zoomed in view of your life at that point, and you don't have enough perspective where you can actually like think about it for that. So I would extrapolate that wisdom to, if you're in your mid-20s and you're not sure of what to do, you can still try stuff out, right? If you're in your mid-20s or even like your early 20s or even in like early 30s, right? Like, you can try stuff out. It's not that serious, right? You can go to, maybe not go to school because you don't want to take a bunch of debt, but like try out a couple different careers, right? Like, I tried being an EMT for a little while. I looked into like the medical space. I looked into potentially doing firefighting or something like that. I looked into, potentially going into like the legal route. I looked into just straight up business, like entrepreneurship. It's good to keep options open for that. But yeah, I mean, you should totally try stuff out. Yeah.
Okay, so when I was in high school, the only thing that was on my mind was be wealthy and get a varsity letter. Right? I wrestled in high school. When like now that I'm thinking about it, 18-year-old Winston, 4 out of 18 years is what, like 2/9, right? Well, I don't know what that shakes down to, like math wise, like 17% or something, right? Now that I'm 27, right? 4 out of 27 is, significantly like a smaller percentage than that, right? So like the more life you live, the less, I don't want to say the less it matters, but the less impact sections or chunks of your life actually have on the holistic story that is your life, right? Which is what my mom always says something, and it sounds kind of like dreary, but in actuality, I think it's very, very profound. She tells, because my mom, single mother, like similar background, dad left, all that. She had to raise the 4 of us. She tells people that she counsels and mentors today, whatever you do, stay alive, right? Like, don't kill yourself for the kids. Don't kill yourself for the man. Don't kill yourself. Stay alive. 1, because your kids are resilient, and 2, the more life you live, the less impact certain decisions might actually have on your life, right? So like, I think that is so profound to, once again, like, take that wisdom, apply it to how we're living today. Guys, just keep living, right? Keep working, keep living, keep striving to not just reach something, but give yourself a chance to see how little your mistakes actually mattered.
Oh, for sure.
Right? And just continue to expand your skill set, but also your perspective on what might be next in your life.
And I mean, like, that also speaks to, I mean, that's great advice from your mom, but I mean, like, it also speaks to, if you know something is a problem, like, and you see it in the horizon, like, and you know that there's no way to avoid it, right? Like, you might as well just step on the gas, right? Like, if you see an iceberg and there's no way to go around it, right? Like,
that part.
Why spend a few extra hours like trying in vain to go around this thing when, just smash through it, right? It's going to do some damage, but like, as long as like you keep continuing forward through there, as you get further and further away from, maybe you need to rebuild the ship while you're moving or whatever, but like, you're better off, right? Because now you have a better time horizon. You have more time to focus on whatever it is like that comes after that terrible thing.
Facts. Yo, bro, so like, you actually stole one of the questions that I was going to ask you.
Did I?
One of the questions I always ask is like, what if you can distill this conversation to a 10-year-old version of yourself in 2 sentences, how would you do it? And you kind of already touched on it, but I'm curious, would you have a different answer for a 10-year-old version?
A 10-year-old version of me?
Yeah. Or I mean, your sons, right? So your sons are...
My son is, oldest one is going to be 5 soon.
Yeah, so you got some time on that.
He's got a little time. So I've thought about this, and like, because like everybody thinks about that, like, oh, what would I go back and tell 10-year-old me? But like, I don't think that you can actually comprehend the advice that is necessary at that time, because like, it's one of those like, beautiful ironies of life, is that like, you have to actually experience something in order to like understand those things, right? They say like, youth is wasted on the young.
Yep.
And it's true. Cause I mean, you need to have become older in order to like have the insights that would have helped you when you were younger, but you cannot comprehend those insights. I mean, I don't know, maybe like, you know, there's some young Buddha out there or something that's like, you know, gonna be wise to that kind of stuff.
Most 10-year-olds are still picking their nose.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, like if I could, like, so assuming that 10-year-old me would like take this advice and like I come back like the Terminator and I'm like, you need to do this, otherwise the future is, you know, screwed or something. Like, let's assume that's the scenario. I would try to ingrain into myself that like life only gets more difficult, right? And when you are under your parents' care, obviously assuming that like your parents are, you know, actually taking care of you and they're not like some sociopaths or something, but assuming that your parents are like taking care of you, providing for you and all of that, that is the easiest your life will ever be. Right. And that is the time that like, if you can invest in yourself, if you can invest in anything, right? If you can invest in a business, if you can save some money or do something, you have zero stakes, right? There's no such thing as like a mistake that like can't be fixed at that time. I mean, don't murder anybody, but
Please,
like, you know,
don't murder anybody.
Yeah, don't do that. But like, other than that, like pretty much anything you can overcome at that age, right? And you can invest so much time in developing skills or something. I thought about this, like I started golfing when I was in my mid-20s, right? Because it was just like something I got interested in. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a good thing to do with business people. And when I started thinking about it, I was like, well, like I played sports all throughout high school. Like, how do you learn a sport like that you've never played when you're not a child and like your parents don't pay for lessons or like you're not going to school for that? Because lessons for like when you pay for lessons for a kid, it's like $20 an hour or something. Yeah. When you're an adult, it's like $150 an hour to like learn this thing. And you're like, well, crap, I probably need like 10, 20 hours of lessons to even be anything. So like, that is like a small example of like, okay, this is the easiest that it's ever going to be. Cause like when you are a kid, if you're like in, you know, 10 or 11, yeah, you should learn to play golf. Like it will never, ever be easier. You'll still be able to know how to play golf when you're 30, just like you'll know how to ride a bike when you're 30, but like it will never, ever be easier. Right? If you want to start a business or something, like why do you think like Zuckerberg and all of these people start like businesses when they're 19 years old? Because there are no stakes. You know, if you have a family by that time, hey, more power to you. I'm Catholic. So, you know, if you're 18 years old and like you get married and you start having kids,
start
like,
really bang them
you
out.
know,
keep going.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I support that wholeheartedly. But like, if you're not doing that, right? If you're just like in school and you have some sort of entrepreneurial spirit and you're like, I just want to give something a shot, there is no other point in your life where the stakes are lower, right? You're not going to let your family down because you're already living in like pizza boxes. It's not like you're going to be like broke when you're 18 because everybody is broke.
Facts.
At that point. You know, everybody's eating ramen. You know, it's not even like you're, you know, you can go out on dates.
Bro, that extends to like your 20s. That extends to like even some of your late 20s.
Yeah, when you're in your 30s, right? Like it's going to be hard to, you know, be absolutely broke and, you know, go out on a date or something like that. There's not any opportunities for that. You're not going to be, you know, going like, all right, let's go to the value menu, girl.
Yeah,
anything
please,
you need.
like just stay home at that point.
Yeah, no.
But you know what that advice like teaches me? Obviously we're not going to be 10 years old again, so like we can't do that, but we get the opportunity now to give that up, give that to our kids.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't think about it that way, but I'm going to like my son and daughter are going to be in everything. Yeah. They're going to learn every skill young, and they're going to be the ones to decide which ones they want to now cultivate. Like that is actually some really
anything that they can do in school. Like if they get to do like AP classes or something, like I mean, why wouldn't you? You know, you get to go for free, take free college level classes that will like reduce your college bill on the other end. Like I'm saving for my kids. Now I'm not going to say college per se. I'm saving, you know, some amount of money that, you know, potentially they can use if they want to go to college. But potentially they can use it, you know, to start a business or whatever, you know, I'm not telling them about it because I don't want them to be ruined.
Yeah. For that.
Don't ever watch this, kids.
Yeah, sorry, you got a rich dad, but he doesn't want you to know.
Not really, but you know. Well, I mean, I don't know. If they wrong me, then like that money instantly becomes mine. You know,
he's gonna get them both.
If they denounce me, I mean, like that's just like that's it. You know, then I'm gonna tell him. I'm gonna be like, well, this just
You
disappeared.
blew
You know,
it. You blew it.
for that. But yeah, I mean, like I'm saving this amount of money for them, you know, to do this, but like I'm not telling them about it because I don't want them to, you know, get ruined by it. But I hope that they choose wisely, right? I hope that they understand, because I'm also going to tell them that like you have to pay for your own school. Like, so if they want to go to college, I'm going to be like, dude, you need to take the AP classes because it's just going to make this thing cheaper for you. And then when you get loans, like they're going to be significantly less for that.
So there's like this concept of like, I want to be a safety net for my kids, but I want to, as they get older, progressively reduce the tension on the net. Whereas like when they're young, you fall on that net, you bounce right back up. But like the older that you get, progressively, you're falling a little bit further, right, before that net really starts to kick in, right? Because I want to train them to, I don't want to be a safety net for my kid, you know, their entire life. They got to be, a man and a woman of their own house. So yeah, like whenever I say that to my wife, she's like, yeah, but no, unless you're your kid and all that. But like, you know, that idea. But I like the idea of,
she's your wife. You know?
Yeah, because she's my wife, you know. But like, I like the idea of like giving them the opportunity to do whatever it is that they want. I wish that's something that was done with me. But like all you driven people out there, like everybody that's striving for something, remember that your first priority is like at your house, right? Like you are a priest of your home first. You know, you are the caregiver of your house. So make sure that in distributing all of this energy to everybody else in the world, make sure you have enough for home as well.
And I would tell your wife respectfully, right, that like, you know, your kids have like
make sure it's
deluxe,
respectful,
like your kids have a pretty deluxe safety net, right? And I'm not saying that we grew up without a safety net. Right, but it was a little ratty. It was sketchy, right? There was, there were some holes in certain areas of that safety net. Bro. You know, you got to pick the right spot to fall, and like, you know, that thing could like. There's a high potential that like the thing is flimsy or whatever.
You got to like catch yourself too.
Exactly,
like,
right? Yeah,
like
there's like a handle or something. You know.
Yeah. It's very apparent like when we got married that like I was like my wife and I, we grew up very differently. So like bridging those like. Parenting styles together has actually been a beautiful project to see. Yeah, for sure. I would say that, bro. Yeah. Listen, man. Thank you for coming out to this, man. Absolutely, this has been. I enjoyed the conversation. I hope it was edifying. I didn't know about like some of the stuff that you know that like your journey. I know we talked about it a little bit, but that was really cool to hear that, man. And I'm glad that you are. The man that you are today, and not the man that you were as an EMT 20 years ago, man. So,
well, I'm working on it.
Yeah. So, is there anything like if somebody wanted to connect with you or just find out a little bit more about you, or you know, how would they do that?
I'm a ghost online, man. Dang. I don't do any social media. You can't find me. You can find me on LinkedIn. But I don't really, you know.
He's gonna ignore you.
Yeah, okay. I post stuff on LinkedIn. Like I repost some stuff, but it's really, you know, just pretty light. I try to stay off of social media as much as possible. Not that I don't like, you know, think that there are good people out there, but you know, I just don't care that much.
I feel you. Okay, so what he's saying is don't hit him up. It's okay.
Yeah, don't bother me.
Don't.
You know, I don't
leave him alone.
You don't need to know where I live. You don't need to know what my socials are.
That's it.
Know? If you see me on the street, come say what up.
Yeah, no, he's very approachable sometimes. But nah, man, listen, thank you again.
Absolutely.
Hey, guys, thank you for tuning in to TDY, this episode of TDY, Faith, Family, and Finance. I hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure to like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff at the bottom of this video. And if you want to connect, my information will be in the description. I want to encourage you guys to continue to grow more in your faith, in your family, and in your finances every single week. All right. Love you guys. Peace.